And that's something I've been hearing for the last several years is that they're putting this on our food. You know, who knows what's in it? Bill Gates wants to kill us and you can't wash it off, so you're ingesting it no matter what. That's not true.
That's a pretty good synopsis. This got twisted around because Joe Rogan had a guest that was talking about Apeel, and she was talking about how it was on apples.
Yeah,
I
but
think
it
that's
isn't.
no, it's not. But I just think that's where that came from. That soundbite, and why everybody thinks it's on apples is because she was talking about it being on apples, but it's currently not. Welcome to Influence to Death, your guide for navigating the wild world of wellness influencing. Hi, and welcome to Influence to Death. We're recording early today. My name is Victoria Lafont.
I'm Hannah Wright, and today we're going to be talking about a very trendy topic that's getting a lot of fire behind it, people feeling lots of ways. Apeel, also called Apeel, but I think it's supposed to be pronounced Apeel. It's the coating that they're putting on, well, right now, a very limited amount of fruits or vegetables that you peel. So it's actually not on every single thing, like I was led to believe.
Yeah.
So
if you do believe their website, which, I think some people might not believe their website, but if you do believe their website, it is on just a few select pieces of produce right now.
Avocado, citrus, like orange, lemons, and grapefruit. And that's sounds like it's pretty much it for now. So
yeah, it's this is interesting, actually. On their main website, I just happened to see this. Their main title tag, which means nothing to most people. It's a big deal to us in the marketing world, but it's like a 505 internal server error on their main title tag. I'm like, somebody needs to maybe let them know. So yeah, we'll list we can put the list of approved foods, the foods that they're using it on right now, in the show notes. But yeah, people have had very strong reactions to this product. So we're going to discuss that today. It's important to note that this is a paid episode. So I don't know why on these subscriber episodes, I just feel a little looser.
Yeah, I do too. As evidenced by our intro, just where we don't even have it together.
Well, it's also early in the morning that we're early. I mean, I guess it could be earlier. The sun is up, but and on a day that we normally have off. But I just feel a little more casual. So yeah, this is for paid subscribers. We have an extra episode every month for people who support the show monetarily. So for $5 a month or up, you can become a paid subscriber, get that extra episode. We've covered some pretty interesting topics. We covered, I think Primal Diet was a paid episode.
Methylene blue, that was a popular one.
Yeah, the methylene blue, colostrum. There was one other trendy supplement in there, and it was like a trifecta episode.
We also talked about hygiene hypothesis in one of the subscriber episodes, the germ and worms. Yeah, and that was a really fun one.
Yeah, our boy Graham Rook. So yeah, we appreciate your support, period. Liking the episode, giving us I guess you can't, I'm so used to saying follow, share. Is there a platform you can like the episode? You can rate us.
Yeah, that
any rating.
Yeah, any rating.
If you think we suck, give us a 1 star. I want to hear about it, actually.
I think we've only had 1 low rating so far. So
which was actually very exciting to me. I was like, great. Yeah. And then, if you share the podcast with friends, that is helpful. And just to be clear, it's just me and Hannah typing away. I work on a tiny laptop. I don't even have I see people on these monitors and I'm like, we don't even have the space.
Yeah. And I actually dropped my laptop the other day, pretty hard. And I was like, no. And then it was fine. I was like, oh, and that was a week ago. And now the screen is doing this weird thing. And I'm like, oh no. What's my timeline for failure?
Is there a place in Chattanooga where you can get a computer?
I'm sure. I mean, I would assume
moving
so. That
away
would be
from
weird if not.
Boston, I was like, we're moving away from the Mac store from the
Oh, yeah, I don't know if we have that here. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, dude, when I was writing my capstone thesis for grad school, in our apartment in Boston, it was a studio. So we bought this 7.5 tall, lofted bed. So we were 7.5 feet off the ground. We would have to climb a ladder, like kids to get in
Mhm.
bed.
That's
And
so
I
fun.
was up. It was for like the first couple of years. And then I was like, I have to pee. Come on. I was up there writing and sat on the mattress in a certain way, and my laptop slid off the bed and fell n- down 7.5 feet onto the ground. And I cried. I mean, it was fine. But in the moment, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Anyway. Okay.
Fantastic.
So, actually, we're going to give you a little teaser. So before we cut off for people who are not paying subscribers,
Mhm.
you wanted to start the show with like
Oh,
one
yes, I
very
wanted to
important
say
fact.
something. So, we were talking about maybe it was the Primal Diet episode, or wait, no, you did that with Jameson. It was one of the episodes where we're talking about eating raw meat, and I listened back and I realized I had, like, just, said, "Oh, this is gross," or something, and I didn't want that to be misconstrued as me saying, like, eating raw meat is gross or eating fermented meats is gross or all the various cultural foods that like incorporate raw meats. I've eaten them. Lots of, I know that they're there around the world. I was specifically talking about the influencer that I came across on Instagram a while back who kept referring to this like fermented meat in a mason jar as farty meat. And it was just his whole persona and how hard he was leaning into it.
Yeah.
And his, like, tactics for trying to cover up the smell and stench of the farty meat so that he could actually, like, eat it, that is what I was thinking of when I was like, "This is just gross, like, what is this?" So I just wanted to clarify so I didn't sound like a total jerk. Because when I was re-listening, I was like, "This could be, heard in a different way." So, just putting that out there.
I can't imagine anyone would ever think you're a jerk, Hannah.
Thanks.
I also thought it was gross, and I've been eating raw meat for decades at this point.
Yeah.
Um, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Cool.
that's
Okay.
legit. Okay, so should we talk about Apeel? I have to say, I love whoever named this is a genius and deserves some type of like copywriting prize because it is Apeel,
Mhm.
but it did not appeal to the natural food community.
Also, Bill Gates does not own Apeel. He didn't invent Apeel. His scientists didn't invent Apeel.
Mm-mm.
I totally believe that misinformation. And
Mm-hmm.
I never like really looked into it. I just kind of kept in the back of my mind and I was like, "Oh, this is sketchy. I need to look into this more, be cautious of it." So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
That's your tidbit. Okay, so we're gonna
Mhm.
cut off for anyone who's not a paid subscriber. Bye. Okay, so yeah, Bill Gates. Should we talk about like here's kind of the process of that company getting
Yes.
funding is they
Yeah.
did get like a prize of
Mhm.
$10,000 for their idea. That looked like that was kind of their first financial boost. And
Mhm.
then they actually did get 2 grants from the Gates Foundation.
Mhm.
So people have big feels. I think they have bigger feels about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Or is it maybe it's just the Gates Foundation now? Because I think they got a divorce. So maybe, I don't
Yeah.
there's some tea there. The Gates Foundation, they got 2 um, grants. I don't know if they're grants technically. They received money from the Gates Foundation in 2015 and in 2012. So, and it's like over $1 million that they received total from the Gates Foundation. But what I always saw with write ups about Appeal when it kind of first hit, it's probably been like a year and a half ago when people like really flipped out. There's like been a little bit of resurgence of that, which is why we're doing this podcast. But I always saw these visuals where people would visually put a picture of Bill Gates next to the Appeal sticker. So
Mhm.
same, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he invented this. There's
What
also like the Bill Gates owns all the farmland in the United States.
is that true?
How much? Okay, hang on. Oh, I didn't Google
How
this.
do
I
we
have a
find that out?
whole list of why we hate Bill Gates. Not me and Hannah. I actually don't really have any big feelings about Bill Gates, but why people do hate Bill Gates. How much farmland in the United States is owned by China? That's what Google pre-populates by Bill Gates. Okay, so the land report.com says he owns 242,000 acres of U.S. farmland, which makes him the nation's largest private farmland owner. Okay, so well, that's true. He does
Mhm.
own a lot of farmland. That's a lot of acres.
Yeah, is it? I don't really know, have a reference point. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but I could also see how maybe if you're not familiar with farmland, that's not that much total. How much total is in
That's
the US? I don't know.
that's right. Like compared to how much there is, I mean, it makes him the largest private farmland owner. That's
Mhm.
pretty interesting.
I mean, if
Um,
I was a billionaire, multi-billion like, I don't even know his, like, net worth or like, I get the hate on him. I also see how, like, he's a businessman. So,
yeah,
like, of course, he's gonna invest in Apeel because he probably sees it as potential profit. Like, hopefully, it will be, and it'll get out there and start, like, making a difference in food preservation. We'll talk about that whole thing in just a minute, but also if I had that much money and I actually did have some goodness in my heart, which you could also debate, like, once you're that rich, can you have goodness in your heart? Like, why do you feel the need to keep accruing wealth? Like, you have enough. So that is, like, kind of but I would buy farmland to protect it,
yeah,
from people like, you know,
like Bill Gates. I'm just kidding.
like, so, I mean,
Love the way that you phrase that. Yeah. Um, I know I've brought this up before, but when they're like, when you hit, like 999 million or whatever it is, you get like a dog park named after you, and then you can't
yeah, and
make any
that's
more
it.
money. And listen, there's, I think, extremely valid questions that need to be asked around people who just like keep
Right.
accruing. But I guess then the argument is he then gives back through this foundation. We're going to talk more about him, but yeah, so it's good to know he does not own this company. Should we go tell the history a little bit, or do you feel like you want to? There's one main um, fallacy, I guess, around Apeel that is like the number one issue that people have with it that is not true, that you found.
Yeah. Well,
It's
it's from their frequently asked questions. So
yeah,
also you have to trust them, right? Like,
right. You have
so
to.
that's like a lot of but I've realized researching this, I mean, and come to realization within my lifetime as I'm getting older, if you cannot trust people around you, you're going to go crazy. Like, you have to like have that some level of trust to function. That said, I'm a huge questioner. I've mentioned before on the show that I think it's unfair to label people conspiracy theorists because a lot of times it's not a
It's true.
conspiracy. They're just thinking outside the box and asking questions other people are uncomfortable asking. Anyways, appeal can be washed off. That's where I was getting to. That's
Yeah.
You put out a poll on Facebook and asked like what people's thoughts on appeal are,
Mhm.
and I don't know if we wanna read some of those answers, but that
Oh,
was
yeah.
one that came up a few times, and that's something I've been hearing for the last several years is that they're putting this on our food. Who knows what's in it? Bill Gates wants to kill us, and you can't wash it off, so you're ingesting it no matter what. That's not true.
That's a pretty good synopsis.
So
Um, yeah, I mean, that was concerning to me when I first heard about it and saw people posting about that.
mhm. It
And
is concerning.
dude, it's so funny to me. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm like not fully awake yet, but the way you're saying things right now, can you have goodness in your heart if you are a bajillionaire? And then secondly, yeah, you will absolutely go batshit crazy if you don't have, it's almost like some like a heuristic, like a a
Yes.
way of
Mhm.
figuring out what you believe is true or not. The thing that I see that is so interesting, I see this in myself, I see this with people out in the world, is like they won't believe whatever maybe the status quo is or whatever the direct source is, but they will believe the like alternative explanation. And I this is a little bit of an aside, but please bear with me, Hannah. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to take you on this journey with me. I'm sorry. Um, I've been thinking about this a lot lately because there is this extremely popular public health, well, she's like a public health professional of some sort. Jessica Nurick, I think is how you pronounce her name on Instagram. She has like over 1 million
Oh,
followers
yeah.
at this point, massive engagement. She is extremely articulate and I think educated. And I would say most of what she says feels very balanced and I agree with. And then like there's this way where I'm like, she's really talking a lot about like Maha, RFK, her objections. Um, but then there's this way where I'm like, people didn't go to integrative medicine and functional health and like another way of looking at nutrition because things were going so well
Right.
in the conventional world. There's a reason that people do what they do and they believe what they believe. Yeah, and it's not there's no problem. There's not going to be this I mean this is an enormous movement, right? So yeah, I was actually yesterday I got to spend time with some friends and we're just kind of talking this out with them where it's like it's so bizarre to me that then these like sides are created where it's like this side and that side. And it's like, hey, listen, we're all fucking stupid in moments and we do dumb shit. And we're both also awesome in moments
Mhm.
and do awesome things. Like, why can't we get together over the awesome things and then try to see ourselves so we can let go of the dumb shit? But
Right.
that's not what gets you traction,
Yeah.
or followers or makes money. But I think it's just this like lack of in most people ability to kind of see yourself. So it's like then you're not going to take care of your dumb shit. You're going to keep looking at the dumb shit of the other side and it's like it's just not the way. So yeah, I think it kind of goes back to that where it's like, yeah, people come up with their alternative explanations and they believe those, but that does happen for a reason, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're taking Appeal's website at face value and believing it. It can be washed off. Mm. It is not owned by Bill Gates. It was founded actually in 2012 before, I guess it got popular by this man named James Rogers. He was finishing his PhD at Santa Barbara, and he and the people that he started to work with were material scientists. So they were not in the food sector, which I think people also forget. It's not just like nice ladies out in a field getting your spinach and putting them into those plastic containers that you buy at Whole Foods. It's like it is an industry. It's an enormous industry. If
Yeah.
you've ever been to Central California, you know this firsthand. Um, so they entered into this other industry with this product idea, which it is a really interesting idea as far as a product goes because it essentially mimics the natural protections that produce creates for itself, which by the way, it's pretty cool to look at. So they're like, this is actually an NIH paper. It's called Mechanisms of Plant Defense Against Insect Herbivores. Plants make their own wax. It's called a cuticle, like these physical barriers that are like our skin, just how we make our own like sebum, right, in our skin to protect itself. And so the idea that this guy James Rogers came up with was to make another peel.
Right.
Again, the
Yeah.
copywriter in me is like, ugh, word that they came up with. And then he went on to develop this idea and grow this company. And eventually in 2016, he and his team, including this woman, Hannah, that you have heard, Jenny Do, they filed the patent for Apeel. Um, and they were granted this, it's a US patent, it's public, you can read it. I read it. Like, made my brain want to explode, but I totally read it. And so essentially what I mean, this is kind of just the abstract of the patent where they're talking about the product that Apeel is creating, which I think is actually called Edapeel, is like their
Yeah,
main
'cause
product.
that's what goes on conventional produce. They have a separate formulation for organic produce, which is another, like, line I'm hearing repeated by consumers is one of their concerns is like, well, they have a different one for organic and a different one for conventional, and that's suspicious. But it isn't
Mhm.
really when you look at the regulations of what's allowed to be on organic produce in order of like its volume or like quantity or whatever, however they measure it.
Right.
And so they do have a slightly different formulation for whatever reason. The
Mhm.
the requirements for something to be certified organic are so stringent
Mhm.
if you
Right.
go and read, like, I couldn't even get through, like, a paragraph. It's just so much information, so many rules, so
Mhm.
many subcategories, and I know from knowing a lot of local farmers with naturally grown I mean, they are organic it is organic produce, but so many of them have told me, "We can't be certified organic because it's just so intense." Like, the
Mhm.
regulation, the monitoring,
And
and
expensive.
it's expensive. Yes, it costs us
Yeah.
money, but, like, also it's just super time consuming for them to have to check all of these boxes. So
Mhm.
I'm just saying that because it's helpful to, like, think of, like, why that might be. It's not just because someone's trying to, like, kill the people that's a little extreme.
It's
Someone's trying
because
to
Bill Gates. That's what
sicken yeah, Bill Gates is trying to make us sick, and it's different between organic and conventional, and that's another reason why you should only buy organic. No, it's not, like I know it's easy to fall into that, like, suspicion trap, but let's
I mean,
think
it's a
about
bureaucracy just like
yeah.
any other. This is the interesting thing. Anybody who's ever worked with a large group of people or in an organization, if you've worked at a university, if you've worked at a larger company where, let's say, there's more than like 50 employees, you've seen bureaucracy in action. It's probably been extremely frustrating for you in moments where you're like, why can't this thing just happen?
Mhm.
And anytime a group of humans gets together and tries to organize, there invariably are like fingers of like trying to improve things, but then over time it gets so involved that it becomes there's like a word for it. It's like this like bulk of useless shit that you have to go through. It's like, why don't we simplify? And it's like that's just not how things work. So that's the same experience, Hannah. When we lived in Northern California, there were so many incredible farmers. Very few were certified organic because they were just like, there's no, we're actually better. That's the line that a lot of them used. We're like, we're beyond organic, you know? Um, so yeah. Um, I can't remember the
So,
line of thinking that I was on before.
you were talking about the peel, how it's Edapeel for conventional
Right.
the organic one is a different name, um,
Organopeel.
organic peel, but
Yeah.
also right now they're not even using that. It's
Right.
being
They're not even.
reformulated. So right now the only one in use is Edapeel on conventional produce, like we mentioned, it's very limited. It's like avocado, citrus. So you go buy apple, it's not gonna have a peel on it. It will, however, have other shit on there, which is an
Yeah.
important point. But before we jump to that, I wanted to touch on, like, the the mentality behind creating something like this and how cool it is that it's like a second peel to protect that
Mhm.
piece of produce because
Mhm.
there's a reason why, like, I'm sure they wanted to create this, and that is to prevent food waste. And
Mhm.
so and then hopefully through preventing food waste, help fresh foods reach more people because so much of it is lost. And I pulled this from the USDA, and this is just in the US, but it's estimated that between 30 to 40% of uh, food is wasted. Like it just goes
Mhm.
bad or whatever, it can't be sold. And so that corresponds to 133 billion pounds and $161 billion worth of food in 1 year. So that was in 2010, where those numbers came
Mhm.
from.
Mhm.
That's like enormous. Like, what if that could get to people?
Mhm.
So, like, with that, I have a question. that I haven't answered, but that's would something like a peel lower the cost of fresh produce for consumers? Like, if it's not we're not losing money, those industries aren't losing money from waste, could they lower the cost and get that on more people's tables, you know?
Yeah.
And then I also think about if you've ever lived in an area with food deserts, um, and seen, like, businesses try to start in or, like, a small market or a convenience store or even, like, a Dollar General that maybe tries to stock produce,
Mhm.
get it to those people. um, if that produce sits there too long, it's gonna go bad and people don't buy it, and then over time, I'm saying this because I saw this happen in my neighborhood, they stopped stocking it
Mhm.
because initially not enough people were buying it. It started to go bad, and then they couldn't afford to buy more supply, and then people are looking at this partially not so good looking apple, and they're like, "I don't really wanna buy that." And so it's just and then eventually they're like, "Well, but if it could stay fresher longer, maybe that would change that," and get
Yeah. I mean, God, I'm so happy in so many ways that you're going to get this MPH because I feel like you're going to have this completely different perspective on health than what we
Yeah.
have because we studied the most individual form of health. Um, yeah, if you have never been in a spot in your life where you can't get, I mean, calories, period, but yeah, produce, you start to think a little differently. And I think that, I mean, the public versus individual health, conversation has come up in a few different episodes. Those are two different animals that I think should, again, work together. But we have to think about things at a population level. And most people in our world, I mean, I haven't for years until a few of our friends started to get education in public health. And I was like, oh, it's different when you're
Mhm.
dealing with groups of people. Um, I mean, they say that they developed this to solve the problem of food waste. That's like their mission. Um, I wanted to just read a little bit of this patent. Is everybody so excited about that? We're going to read a patent. Um, So essentially, appeal it's derived from plants. They're very clear about that. We can read about the oils that it is usually derived from, the plant oils. We have information on that. And so what they say is, I'm trying to kind of like make this a little more palatable. Plant extract compositions and methods to isolate cutin derived monomers, oligomers, and mixtures thereof for application in agricultural coating formulations. Um, so essentially, what they're doing is they're using it's called their fatty acids and fatty esters. Um, to create this product. So it says like essentially it is like the protection that the produce makes itself free from accompanying plant derived compounds like that we're used to, right? Like lignans, flavonoids, carotenoids, and like that. It's like just the protection minus, these other compounds. And then, like I said, we'll link to the patent in the show notes. You can read the entire
Mhm.
patent. It's public. Um, so yeah, it grew fairly quickly from 2012. It kind of came on the scene. I want to say, yeah, I heard about Apeel not long ago, like a year ago, 2 years ago, that
Yeah.
people started to be like, hey, have you all seen these stickers at the grocery store? This is dangerous.
Mhm.
I couldn't find like the initial, like the breaking story that brought it into people, kind of like natural health enthusiasts essentially were like, we're not sure about this. But it exploded on to the scene where people were like, is Whole Foods carrying this? Is your grocer carrying this? We need to avoid this. It was a huge, movement to avoid it.
Mhm.
So I guess kind of the question is it what's the deal with it? Like, should we avoid it? Like,
What do you think? What's your bias around this?
yeah, so I do have a bias, and I feel it's the same bias I feel around fluoride,
Uh,
like a couple of the different compounds that we've covered, where I don't want to eat it, and I think I might be wrong. Right? Where it's like I have such a strong bias toward, like, living naturally that when I think about, like, another exposure, and I wonder if other people feel this way too, like, another thing, like, we're trying to eat organic, we're trying to eat the produce, you're supposed to eat, like, whatever, 14 servings of fruit and veg per day, like, the research is phenomenal, like, drastically lowers cancer risk, cardiovascular risk, like, all these, complete opposition to what carnivore people are doing. Um, and then it's like this processed ingredient is on, like, one of the only non-processed foods that we have. I completely understand the sentiment. The more I read about it, and then the more I read about what is already used on organic produce, which we're gonna cover, makes me think, like, this actually may be a better option,
Yes.
which is ironic. So after I mean, I've read probably I don't know, I've probably read 10 hours about I still don't even know how to pronounce the fucking thing. Apeel. It feels very unnatural in my Kentucky mouth. Appeal is how I want to say it. Um, and so after that amount of time, I'm like, I think it is a lesser evil. I'm putting
Hmm.
that in jump
Yeah.
quotes.
No, I feel
That's
the
my bias.
same. Like, I actually took a picture of these conventional oranges sitting on my counter of the label, and I wanted to put it in the show notes, but I can't figure out how to do that because I'm not tech smart.
Send it to me. I got you.
Okay. But basically, if you've ever noticed this, especially on citrus, like lemons and oranges, on the bag, there'll be a white label and in very, very fine print at the bottom. It will say, this product has been coated with one or all of the following, and it has a list. Sometimes it's like resin, wax, but sometimes it's these big words, one of which is, hang on, let me find.
I mean,
Oh,
while you're go ahead,
here
Hannah.
it is. One of which is amazalil, and then you'll see that it starts with an I. That's classified as a likely carcinogen. So that's on produce, and it's on lots of stuff in the grocery store. So I don't know. Yeah, would APL be better than that? To me, heck yeah. Like, of course. Like, that's not even a question. And
Yeah.
also, how well does that work? I think it's a fungicide or an herbicide or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And so if we could use something that's just more close to nature, like mono and diglycerides, we'll talk about like potential risks of those too in a minute. But I
Yeah.
mean, I totally agree with you. It's like one more thing we have to worry about. But then I'm like, look at our life. Like, what do you expect? Like, we live in this world with billions of people.
Yeah.
We live in a way that's been totally removed from the earth,
Mhm.
at least in the US. We
Mhm.
prioritize things that probably shouldn't be prioritized. But then at the same time, it's like, well, I get that because like we're living in this time where we have just so many people and like not very much land and like this is how we're functioning. And then you look back to like, the turn of the century when food regulation started to like get its footing because it was basically like the Wild West. Like,
Mhm.
we can really romanticize our ancestors and how they lived closer to the land, but then forget that once people started moving off of farms into cities, things were
Mhm.
nuts and food
Mhm.
regulation was not there and people were ingesting really dangerous stuff that could make you extremely sick and did make people sick, and people
Mhm.
just didn't understand how dangerous it was. Like, formaldehyde was a food preservative. Lead was in, like, kids' candy,
Lid, yeah,
stuff
totally.
with, like, plaster and, like, non-food items, non-edible items. It wasn't until, I think, like, I have the date, actually. Yeah, in 1907, the Pure Food and Drug Act was put out there
Enacted.
because it was, like, really bad, and there was a guy in 1902, a doctor named Dr. Harvey Wiley, who did the poison squad experiment to kind of prove a point. Yeah. So,
Tell us. This is fantastic.
okay, so he was a physician, and he, like, realized that there was all of this stuff in our food like that. and it was totally unregulated. He was a chemist for the US Department of Agriculture. And so he decided to prove his point. He was going to conduct an experiment on human volunteers. Super unethical, but like that's how things were
Before
done
that,
back
was it like
then.
the Helsinki protocol?
Was
You know, like
that
you have to like follow certain rules now with research. Like you
Oh,
can't,
right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Like you have to I mean, he did actually disclose this, but what he did is he recruited other people that worked at the USDA to volunteer and come to this dining hall where they agreed that they would get 3 meals a day. They wouldn't eat anything outside of the dining hall. The meals are going to be delicious, prepared by a wonderful chef, like super high quality, and the US
What's
government
in
would
it?
pay for all of it. Um,
I'm afraid,
and
man. I'm afraid of what you're gonna say.
so the thing is they have to agree that at any point you could be given a capsule with a variety of food additives that were in use at the time, and you would have to take it. So that did include like a capsule of formaldehyde or a capsule of like lead or borax. The crazy thing is that these guys knew that and they still were like, "Yeah, I'll do it. Like I'll go get this food and I'll take the stuff. Like fine, it's in our food already." So it was like, obviously unethical because you're testing very, like, as we know now, very toxic compounds on human volunteers, and he knew they were toxic. That's the whole reason he was doing this experiment.
What did it discuss the outcomes? Like, did you?
So I'm pulling this information from an interview with the author of a book of about this guy called The
Got it.
Poison Squad. I haven't read the book, but what I think happened is that the people did get sick from
Yeah.
these things, and it was I guess easier to I'm assuming easier to measure then because like at the time people were getting sick from foods,
Mhm.
probably partially because they were contaminated by bacteria, but then also
Kinds of
because of
things.
these
Yeah.
toxic additives.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard to might be hard to measure that and control
Yeah.
for it. But this was more controlled,
You
like
controlled the poison. My
yeah.
god.
I do want to go read that book. I didn't even know it existed. It was published many years ago. But that's just to give an idea of like we romanticize the past, but we've come a long way. And
Yeah, yeah, we focus on the parts that are still problematic.
Mhm.
Like, in my mind, I always go back to researching triclosan and how it has
Yes.
these exemptions from the FDA, essentially because the fucking lobbyists from Colgate lobbied so hard, even though there was evidence that it was carcinogenic. There are those events, like, that does happen. There are problems, mainly because humans are gonna human. But, I mean, really, it's like, they're gonna do dumb human things, and especially they're gonna do that because we have to make money to
Mhm.
survive. Um, I'm not saying that I'm okay with how everything is, but I do think that you're exactly right. There's a way where it's like some of the systems that we have in place have worked so well that we forget how it was before. It's like when you don't have digestive trouble, you're like, you can't even imagine what it's
Right.
like to have IBS. And then something goes haywire, and you're like, oh shit, that was doing its job the whole time.
I
I
didn't
just
know.
didn't realize.
And that's exactly why RFK should not be the director of the HHS
I
because
actually saw an article not like a few days ago that was like, it is not the time to eat romaine lettuce. Because, I mean, people also may not realize, like, from a food safety perspective, meat is, you kind of know if something is like a little off with meat. And generally, people don't have much issue digesting meats,
Mhm.
less complex carbohydrates versus like raw salad. The reason that raw salad and a salad bar, I mean, there's a lot of exposure on a salad bar, can make people really sick is because those plant fibers are extremely hard to break down. And so if there is a contamination, it stays in there and multiplies. And you get extremely, extremely ill because it takes so long for your body to digest it. Like if you're traveling, it's just a good idea to skip the salad.
Yeah.
Like, don't give
Right.
yourself that chance. Um, yeah, I mean, I hope that we don't fuck around and find out. I hope we get to skip the find out part with what's going on right now. I am in no way a public health professional. It's hard for me to speak to, but it doesn't look good right now. Um, anyway, okay, so
So
yeah,
there's
I
our
think
biases,
yeah,
right?
that's our bias is clear is and then with everything that we look into, I just feel so acutely aware that it's not my niche. Like I always come back to Graham Rook now being like, "Hey, I've been out of the field of microbiology and parasitology now for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it was, like, to me, this extremely small amount of time, and he's like, "I'm just not up to date," and I was like, "Oh my god, that's a professional." So, if you think about information from that slant, you can't trust a fucking thing you see on social media. And I feel especially with this, it's like we're like not dumbasses. We like know this field a little and we both thought Bill Gates was like deeply involved with this project until we started to research it. And I was like, who is James Rogers? He's the owner of the company. He's the inventor. like
I know, like, it's him and the 2 chemists, Jenny Du and the other gentleman, and you can see a picture of them on their website, and the funny thing is almost their whole content on their website is dedicated to
to Bill Gates.
trying to, like, be like, "No, Bill Gates is not here with us right now," and I just picture them typing from, like, the picture of their little, like, backyard lab, and they're like, "It's just us. Bill Gates is not involved in this." Like,
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this, off mic, and it's like, okay, he did give a lot of money. Like, when people support things financially, like, does he have some influence? We have no idea what the influence is. But yeah, it's like he's not like part of this. Um, yeah, there's so many things we could say about the bias but what you said, it's like, what do you expect? Yeah, we live in this world like this. I think that at the end of the day, looking at things as objectively as possible versus like seeing, a post on
mhm.
social and then running with it. I mean, that's obviously, I
And
think that's what the whole
yeah.
podcast is about.
Yeah. And, like, I know there's some purist people out there who, like, have the resources to really do a good job of, like, avoiding everything they wanna avoid. Even for them, you're gonna be exposed to stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
know you wanna do your best. I totally get that. Like, but then also for someone seeing this information on social media and starting to have more fear about, like, the food in the grocery store, it's like, for me, it comes back to, like, super foundational things that you can do to reduce your toxin exposure that do
Hmm.
not involve, like, micromanaging every, like, part of your life. Like,
Hmm.
things like, I don't know, taking your shoes off in your house or, like, getting a water filter, not, like, doing things like going to the nail salon or, you know, having, like, regular, like, motility, so you're clearing stuff out of your body, drinking enough water. I mean, it's just very simple things, and there is, like, a lot to worry about out there if you're worried about living more purely, but it's kind of impossible to like, you just can't. You can't avoid everything.
You have to live on this
So,
planet.
yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no off planet yet. Yeah, I mean, I think about like the Gwyneth Paltrow aesthetic where she's like in her, multi-million dollar white tiled kitchen with the huge windows and it's like beautiful and she's like blonde with perfect skin and she's skinny and it's like she looks like, like a detox commercial. We live on this earth. Like, I mean, Hannah, I'm sure this came up with you when you were seeing clients. It came up for me where it was like you would see people that would be so scared and the like whipping up of the fear that happens in all media, but especially like in influencer culture, that's what sells shit. I
Mhm.
think that's the thing that, like, I at least have not put directly together yet, or I don't as often as I would like to on this podcast. It's like you are taught in marketing about pain points and like pointing them out and poking them over and over and over so people understand that if they don't get what you're offering, which is the solution to their pain, it's like the solution to the problem, they will keep getting worse, and it's a fear-based thing. It's why we try to do what's called, like, empathy-based marketing instead, but it does not work as well because of our human connection to fear and then, like, getting away from the thing. So, having that knowledge, have a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? Like, with some what eat the orange.
Warmer. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, we're about to tell you what's on the organic produce, so buckle up, buttercups. Anyway, okay, so that's our bias. Should we go into, like, the information, like, the research?
Yeah, let's talk about, like, are mono and diglycerides, like, risky? And if so, at what level? Like, how much would you that's what
Yeah, this is very equivocal, meaning, like, we're not exactly sure, and actually, the amount is not a question that I could find anywhere. So, mono and diglycerides are considered they have GRAS status, generally recognized as safe, um, even in the EU. So, like, one of the main papers that I pulled was from the European Food Safety Authority. Um, they also use mono and diglycerides, which are that's the ingredient that's in Apeel's products. I think the Organic Peel also had, like, citric acid and baking soda as ingredients. So we don't have information on, like, okay, how much mono and diglycerides can you eat? Um, but there are some questions. It goes both ways. So, like, this paper from the European Food Safety Authority, they did have some recommendations around mono and diglycerides. Like, they wanted to make sure that, um, they didn't have, like, the mono and diglycerides final product did not have toxic elements like arsenic, lead, mercury, and cadmium because of the processing.
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah.
toxicity can be introduced in the processing because of the solvents that are used. Um, so they recommend it's called maximum limits for impurities. It's kind of the main one is that I saw that, would probably be concerning to people is that those toxic metals were not left over in the final product. They also went in maximum limits for erucic acid, which is the primary acid in canola oil.
Mhm.
Um, that can be problematic for people if they ingest too much of it. Essentially, they want to make sure that the final product is pure. Um, so, yeah, the chemical creation of mono and diglycerides can come from animal or plant fats.
Mhm.
So just think about all any,
Mhm.
they listed so many palm, coconut, soybean, canola oil. You can derive them down to these processed constituents that essentially it's like this coating that Apeel is using on the outside of produce. And like you said, it's not, I think this got, um, twisted around because Joe Rogan had a guest that was talking about Apeel, and she was talking about how it was on apples.
Yeah.
I
But
think
it
that's
isn't.
no, it's not, but I just think that's where that came from, that soundbite, and why everybody thinks it's on apples is because she was talking about it being on apples, but it's currently not. Um,
Those, like, so mono and diglycerides, they are used in many foods. So it's
yeah,
like, you read a
yeah.
food label of anything that's processed, which processed doesn't technically equal bad, it's more like ultra processed. Lots of whole foods are processed, just a clarification,
I mean,
but
whey is
right.
phenomenal, and it is completely ultra processed. So even that is it's you gotta use your head.
So if you
Um,
read the labels, you'll see that on there, usually near the end of the list. And I'm guessing that's why they got the GRAS status, a generally recognized as safe status, because there was already so much data on that and it's already being used in foods. And that's kind of how that works. So, like, when I was talking about back the turn of the century when it was Wild West, and then they enacted the Pure Food and Drug Act, and then eventually down the road that led to the gener- generally recognized as safe, like, program. Sorry, I just heard Max hurt. He yelled, "Bombs away!" And I was like, "What is it?"
Andy's like, "Yay!"
Yeah. Um, so because they were coming from a place where, like, all of this stuff was in the food, and they were like, "Well, we need to figure out if any of this is actually safe." So they
Mhm.
started testing it, and it's like, 100 different substances. So then eventually over time, they were like, this is a little too much for us to like do. This is a lot. So we're going to change this to where there's a notification procedure. That's what it's called. And that means that a person or company can tell the FDA that they have determined that their substance or ingredient or additive is safe. And then they have
Mhm.
to provide the evidence. What they're like, here's
Right.
the history on it, here's the science we have done, here's the other foods that contain it. And then the FDA reviews that and they're like, oh, yeah, this is fine. And
That's
then you
so
get that status.
interesting. Is that the case for, like, most food additives?
Yeah.
Because that's the same process. I mean, supplement companies don't even have to do that, but it's like it's so funny because supplements get this, like, in some instances, extremely deserved criticism that they're not tested. You know, the
Right.
essentially, it's like unless somebody gets harmed, you can sell whatever you want as a supplement and nobody's gonna look twice or you get reported. But I didn't realize that the burden of proof was on the company, like,
Which is
for
interesting.
a
And
food
some
product.
I could see how people would say, like, that's kinda sketchy because, like,
Yeah.
how are you who's double checking you? Like,
Right.
are they paying off the grass, like, department to be like, "Yeah." I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying I know how people are
Yeah. I'm
brains
thinking
work, and so, yeah.
and then there's, like God, I have so many questions. I would love to have, like, an FDA professional come in, like, or a food safety professional because different companies that produce foods or they get like, inspected, right?
Mhm. Yeah, they're supposed to.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be cool to see. I mean, I'm sure there's some who have a lot of free time now, so we could probably ask somebody.
Give him a call.
Yeah,
I just to be clear, and I didn't say this, I contacted Apeel to get a
right.
statement for the podcast, and I did not hear back from them, but I went through their media channel to be like, "Hey, we're doing a podcast. We wanna,
Mhm.
just discuss this." Um, the name of the podcast is Influence to Death. I'm sure they were like, "Delete." Um,
There is a
okay,
good
so
podcast with Jenny Du, we'll link, sorry.
oh, yeah,
Uh,
let's put that in.
and on the communist hippie not communist, the capitalist hippie the capitalist hippie
The
podcast,
communist hippie and the capitalist hippie are 2 different kinds of hippies. Um,
and
one
it's
is
really cool because she lays out the history, and it just you see her as a person, you're like, "This is just a person. She's a
yeah, she's
chemist,"
just a woman.
and
Yeah, she's a
yeah.
chemist. I found the paragraph about the manufacturing of mono and diglycerides. Hannah, are you okay on time? How are
Yeah,
you doing?
I'm good, I got, like, 20 minutes or
Okay.
30 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, so this is from the USDA. When manufactured, mono and diglycerides are prepared by the glycerolysis. So it's lysis is cut. So it's like glycerol. I'm like, am I even pronouncing this correctly? Um, it's like the breakdown of fats or oils.
Mhm,
So they're derived from fatty acids from edible sources. And then, like I said, animal or vegetable. So that is how they're made. Actually, some of the objections that I've seen is that um, a peel has trans fats. That doesn't seem to be the case based on what I read in the patent. That
mhm.
it's actually processed past that point. So whether that makes you feel better or not. Um, but there's this processing sheet that we'll link. Um, so okay, is it safe to eat? There is some research that it is a very current study. It's a French epidemiological study based on evidence that was it was from I'm going to pull up the original study. The sample size was enormous. So the original study was performed in 2010, um, called the Nutrinet Santé study. So the French government gathered, or not the French government, that's not true. These French researchers, I'm looking to see like where they are. Université Paris.
Cohort is, like, used for a lot of different you see a lot of observations come out of that Nutranex. I
Yeah,
guess that's a large sample.
they're analyzing the
Yeah.
information from those people. Here's the methods. So for 10 years, they followed the information that these people initially entered into a
Mhm.
system, and then based this is where the government comes in. There's like they drew on the follow-up information from their medical records. So they got like kind of their initial information. They did follow-ups every year, but then they wanted to see like what happened with these people. And so they drew that information out of like the primary database. 500,000 volunteers over the age of 18. Mm. And then they followed up for at least 5 years with 240,000 participants. Hundreds of thousands of people's information was in this study. And the main part of the design that I looked at was to see, like, especially with the mono and diglyceride information that it was in this more recent study, a recent analysis of their data, was how they controlled for this. Like, how can they see that, there's an effect of mono and diglycerides? Like, what are they controlling for? It looked like they controlled the shit out of this study. So normally when you're looking at an epidemiological study, let's say like, okay, with this particular one, with it's a food additive emulsifier. Maybe we could mention that. Mono and diglycerides is an emulsifier, so it helps water and oil mix in processed foods. They were looking to see like if there was harm. You normally will see where they're like, we're controlling for smoking, age, other exposures, medication, like they like put statistical controls into place so that hopefully you have like the most accurate data possible for this one exposure,
Right.
right? And you see that listed out. The way that they spoke about it in this study is that based on the original data collection, they controlled based on like extremely stringent guidelines. So it seems like, you know, maybe more than in other studies I've looked at, that the study was controlled well, even though the authors do say, like, okay, there are a lot of reasons that people can get sick. They did find that people who ate more mono and diglycerides compared to people who ate less, they had a higher overall risk of cancer, and in women, breast cancer and prostate cancer in men. So they were looking specifically at mono and diglycerides and at carrageenans, which is
Mhm.
another,
Emulsifier.
yeah,
Mhm.
and it was stronger for carrageenan. The risk
Yeah.
was higher. But yeah, for overall cancer, it was a 15% increased risk. For breast cancer, it was a 24% increased
Mhm.
risk. The confidence intervals are extremely reasonable.
Yeah. They're
It's
narrow.
likely that this is accurate. Um, Prostate cancer, 46% increased risk.
That's a lot.
So it is. I
Yeah.
mean, this is one of those studies where I was like, hmm, I don't like
Okay,
that.
but let's think about this practically. So if our main concern with this information is a peel, those are on foods, and I believe it states on their site that their intention is for it to only be on foods that you peel. So a banana, whatever, or you can peel. Jenny, you mentioned in the podcast that we have linked that right now, at least, it's kind of impossible to put it on things like lettuce or berries because those things are delicately harvested and go straight into the packaging. So there's no next step to like coat them or spray them,
Yeah.
right? So, but these emulsifiers are in other processed foods, and that's
Right.
where you're gonna be consuming a lot of it. So it's in your coffee cream or your ice cream. It's in, like, probably things like even, like, a lunch meat or,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, pre-marinated chicken at the
Gluten-free
store.
baked goods.
Tons of emulsifier in gluten-free baked goods, yeah. So things that are, like, healthy seeming will have emulsifiers, and so that is something that a lot of, functional nutritionists and doctors do advise their patients to avoid because we do know that these health risks are possible, and I wonder how much of that risk is influenced by what they do to the gut microbiome,
Right. That's
and
where
that
I remember learning it was the emulsifiers can be problematic.
right, and then that has a ripple effect, like, through your whole body because of how that regulates your immune function and your inflammation and your gut barrier integrity and things like that, so I don't wanna deny that that's, like, concerning, but that's also why I read labels and I avoid emulsifiers, like, it's something in my mind as a parent too, because that's in a lot of kids stuff, like my son's popsicles that I get that have, they're like all fruit juice based. So I get the ones without extra added sugar. But then also one of the last ingredients I think is like guar gum,
Mhm.
So it's hard to avoid,
Yeah.
you can, it's just difficult.
And there is other evidence showing that there's not a problem with an
Okay.
increased intake of
So
I mean, I'm just looking at the most recent one that I was like, "Whoa, that does not feel good at all." Um, yeah, to your point, it's in so much stuff. It's not on the direct produce that we would eat with a peel.
right.
Um, but I would like, personally, I'm like, I just wanna keep my eye out to see, like, at some point, are they gonna put it on berries? Like, it's like what comes up for me is my guess is what comes up for other people where it's like another spot where exposure can happen. I also think, though, it's important to point out this that, man, when you look at what is on organic produce already, you talked about like, okay, so conventional oranges. I don't know. Are there people out there who like only buy organic? A
Yes.
hundred, like,
I know that from people I know there are. I used to be one of those people. And
yeah, I
then
guess I just never have gotten there. Like when we moved back to Paducah, we got this little like Sam's Club deal where we got to join Sam's Club for half off.
Mhm.
It's like a Costco, people, it's like super Walmart. That's where it came from, Sam Walton. Anyway, we were like, hell yeah, Sam's Club, dude. So me and Andrew are, we're like total meathead, like love to eat. We're like in Sam's Club. I was like, we're about to spend so much money if we don't watch it. Not everything is organic. There is some organic. That's great. But like, I just can't.
A lot of grocery stores, you just don't have a selection, of enough organic things to buy everything organic.
Right. I'm like, do you just
Yeah.
not eat certain foods? Like, I'm going to eat mushrooms here at Sam's Club where I'm at. I'm going to, I don't know. Okay. So, but I can see where it's like, okay, it's another bit of exposure. But on organic produce, let's just we'll link to what's called the national list, which is all the different substances that are allowed on organic produce. Um, just a few that people might be interested in, and this is post-production. So
After
just
harvest.
yeah,
Yeah.
after harvest. Gotta just have this paragraph pulled right. Okay, here it is. So some post-harvest handling substances, lignin sulfonate and sodium silicate used as floating agents. What is a floating agent? I didn't Google that.
I don't know. My brain thinks that it's something that if you put it on it, it makes it float in water.
Yeah, same. That's exactly what I thought.
But,
Okay, so this is organic. Ethylene is sprayed on like I remember it's sprayed
like
on
ripen.
bananas. Yeah, so
Yeah.
for tropical fruit ripening. Chlorine, peracetic acid, and chlorine are used as antimicrobials, and then the entire list. I mean,
There's a
I
lot.
it is a
And
ton
that's all on organic produce. So
after it's
mhm.
your organic berries, right, that you're just eating. So I guess it's like another one of those cases of it's like this thing got popular and then people started to speak out against it. But it's like maybe
The other stuff. It's
what
so
about
silly.
yeah.
It really is because I just feel bad because these guys are trying and ladies, they're trying their hardest to make, like, a product that is genuinely, like, good.
Yeah,
Like,
it
we
seems
can't
like
see that because of their reach, like, because they've become so popular because hopefully they're gonna be millionaires from this, and people see that and they're like, "Oh, they're bad." Like, there's no way they have our good interest at heart because they're making money off of us when really they're trying to, like, solve a problem.
and make money, which okay, so this is
It's fine.
one. Yeah, I came up with this little profit fallacy. I'm sure there is a profit fallacy. I just haven't read it. People are great at pointing out fallacies. But we have this thing where we're like, oh, they're just trying to make money off of us.
Right.
It's like, Yeah, everybody is trying to make money off of you. You have to use critical thinking skills to pick out the products or the solutions that aren't problematic. I mean, I say that and it's like this is a fucking full-time job to to come up with what is the best. But everybody is trying to make money. The person that sells you supplements, they're trying to make money. The person selling you the organic produce, the farmer at the farmer's market, they
Your
got to make
hospital
their
medical
money.
doctor with a membership system for price.
Yeah,
They are trying to make money off
$700
of you.
initial fee or
Yeah,
whatever. Everybody has to make money. Um, so yeah, these people are making money. Everybody's making money. Nobody is exempt from that. So thinking that it is a motivating factor. Um, but yeah, when you start to kind of look through this, I'll post all of the research that I looked at in the show notes. That was the only study that was concerning to me out of all of the research I looked at. And like I said, nobody's like eating spoonfuls of mono and diglycerides, but in that one study, it was the more people ate, possibly their risk of health issues went up. And like you said, that's we kind of know that about emulsifiers. But then when you compare it to like ethylene, you know, there's one other point I thought that was really interesting, Hannah, and our friend Aparna brought this up, which is part of Apeel's appeal is that it's decreasing the risk of mold on these foods,
Mhm.
which is a huge concern right now. That's another trend. I don't even want to touch that topic. Like, could we
Oh,
have a
Lord.
podcast on that and survive? I don't that's a great question. But people are extremely concerned about mold exposure. So it may be that using this on the products that they're using it on decreases mold without using like the antifungals that can be really
Right.
nasty.
Yes. Yeah. So again, it's like providing this solution that really sounds kind of incredible. Like,
Better.
it's
Yeah.
hitting multiple points of,
Mhm.
I don't know, I think
I
it's
know.
kind of funny when I see people get so fired up, like, the Facebook comments on your
Yeah,
question.
people are upset.
Some of them, I mean, I'm just like, "Really? Like, is that really what you think?" And it kind of I feel like we've talked about this so many times on this podcast, like, when you are stuck in that way, it is so hard for your brain to be open to new information. And
Mhm.
actually, I saw this a while ago, and I'm gonna find the study, but they studied this, like, that receptiveness to new information, and, I think something they found is that people who are less open, their brains are aging faster or something like that, so it's, like, for
Please send me that study. I'm gonna
yeah,
cite the shit out of it, and I'll be like,
um,
"Mom, Dad," and I'm just kidding. I love
well, that's why, like, you often see that in older generations,
Yeah,
that
you get
type.
kind of, like,
Mhm.
set in your ways.
Yeah, but now I really am seeing it so much in younger people, it's kind of mind-blowing to me that
There's
it's
a meme,
accelerating.
I think did I text it to you where this comedian is like, "Okay, you're never gonna believe this, but when I was a kid, we would get information from all these different places, and then you're like, hold tight, this is gonna blow your mind, but we would think about it and then come to our own conclusion." I mean, I say that and I totally agree with you, but then like I come back to like the same feeling that came up for me when I heard, Jessica Nurek posted this reel about RFK and he's talking about seeing the kids in the airport and I'm like, yeah, that sounds kind of batshit crazy to me too. Then she pops up these different wellness influencers, like including Mark Hyman, who I don't know, maybe I just have like a little sweet spot in my heart for Mark Hyman. He's kind of soft spoken, been with the Cleveland Clinic, for 1,000 years. And she's kind of one of the OGs of functional medicine. And she's like, they're all grifters. And in my mind, I'm just like, people don't go in a different direction if what they're doing works.
Right.
Like, and
Well,
so, yeah, I mean, I'm like the world's worst, not even the world's worst. I have it in me where I'm like, I want to say something when I see us like going really off the rails in integrative medicine. It like really drives me crazy because it's my field, right? But I'm like, nobody else can talk about us. like, and it makes people feel insane when they try to get answers and they try to get help and they're essentially gaslit. they're told everything is fine, and they're like, "No, everything is not fine." Like, there are problems with our regulatory systems. There are problems with conventional health. This field didn't just come up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really think, like, people's fears come from a very sincere place, but we gotta hold it together.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great takeaway. And if you're worried about emulsifiers, which, yeah, you probably should be, especially if you're eating a lot, like, read your labels. Like,
Yeah,
look at the ones you're actually consuming. They're in look at your, like, protein shakes, like, the pre-mixed ones, like,
love those. I will live on those.
I
Give
love
me
them too. But, yeah, they're gonna have some emulsifiers in it,
Yeah.
yogurts, ice cream, like, all kinds of stuff, so
And for right now, based on what we if we can trust anything, we know that we are not ingesting those with Apeel,
right.
um, right now.
Mhm,
So, yeah, I mean, kind of in that slant, I'm like, if they start to put it on, like, a ton of produce,
mhm. But if you
even
can
if
wash
you
it
wash
off.
it off. Oh, yeah, right, if you can
So
wash it
that's
off.
the other thing, and, something that I appreciated is that she clarified, like, the reason why initially that rumor started is because we didn't know with certainty that you could wash it off, so we didn't make that claim, and
Mhm.
so because we didn't make that claim, people assumed you can't wash it off. Well, now we know for certain you can wash it off, and you can, but still, people haven't let go of, you
That
know,
idea, yeah.
"Yay, another episode."
Actually, I, like, don't feel very good normally at the end of our episodes. If we ever become, like, a popular episode, I will be shocked, or a popular podcast, I'll be shocked because I'm always like, "Well, what do we do now?"
Yeah. We, like, make everything worse for everyone. That's
There's
our
that
target.
comedian David Cross where, he's talking about, like, the media in the era of George Bush. He was, like, very popular at that time and extremely intelligent and outspoken in his comedy. It's like we used to have, like, the terror levels. Do you remember that? It was, like, level yellow,
Yes.
level blue,
The threat, like, yeah, terror
and
threat.
he's, like, mimicking, like, a wife and a husband talking, and the husband's like, "We're level orange, oh my god, what do we do?" And the wife's like, "Well, take the bread out of the oven and let's eat." Like,
Yeah.
basically, there's nothing you can do, so you just try to make the best decisions you can.
I
Um,
shared a chicken wing with David Cross once.
I think he is hilarious and awesome.
He is hilarious and awesome.
Where did you meet him?
At Bonnaroo,
My god.
we were in a line for food together, and weirdly, he was being his, like, comedic self, I think, and his girlfriend was with him.
Yeah, yeah.
He, bit off a chicken wing, and then I think, like, asked me if I wanted it, and he had already eaten it, and I was like, "Yes, of course. I will share a chicken wing with you."
He's one of my favorite comedians of all
Yeah.
time. If people don't know, he's the one in Arrested Development, the husband
Yes.
who thinks he's
Tobias?
naked. Yeah, Tobias. But he has to have jean shorts on.
He's been in so many great comedies, and he's does stand up. He's funny, yeah, but he probably in his mind, he's like, "Wow, let's see if this dumbass will eat, like, my chicken wing that I've already gnawed on," and I was like, "Yes,
No.
I would
He was
love it."
probably just, like, stoned
Yeah,
like everybody
I
in
think yeah.
Bonnaroo. Oh my god, that's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, do your best. I guess maybe that's our always our main takeaway. I wouldn't wanna drink gallons of this stuff, but again, compared to what they're using right now, maybe it's better.
Mhm. Agreed. I'm okay with it. I feel okay with it. I feel excited about that could potentially replace things and then make changes in the food system and,
Yeah, make it more
accessibility of fresh food to people. That I'm down with that.
yeah, totally. Or maybe they don't use I forgot to say this with the oranges. Do you remember learning this or do you see this on produce where they'll add food coloring to
Yes,
certain
to the feels.
foods,
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
oranges, lemons to make
Yep.
them look more appealing? Yeah, it's like, well,
Mhm.
they're just gonna add this other thing instead. Maybe that's okay. Anything else we wanna say about this?
I think that's all. Let us know if you like this episode. Please leave us a review. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, I think we have some suggestions coming up for ivermectin, for
Yeah.
supplements, for turmeric and liver toxicity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's
Some cool episodes coming
oh,
up. Okay, Hannah, have a good one.
you too. Bye.